Anyway, what an interesting meeting on Monday. We covered a lot of business, actually. Got a lot of stuff done
Yep.
as it related to some contracts, some renewals, some street closings. It's all primarily on the consent agenda. But the one item that was removed from the agenda was a resolution to ask the state for $15 million for our courthouse to move the judicial center downtown. And that's an initiative that the council has made a priority, despite what you may have heard on Monday's meeting. It's something that we've talked about that we need to do. The building that we're in is 115 years old, I think, and it is in somewhat of a disrepair. Courthouse downtown moving would create some economic development, create some flow. It would beautify the downtown area. And yeah, it's very expensive because commodity costing, labor costs have just gone up through the roof. And literally, that project has doubled in terms of where our estimated cost would be. But anyway, it just felt like it wasn't quite ready to have that conversation about the courthouse, and so that got removed. But during the public hearing, public comments portion of the show, we had a number of people came up to speak against it, and one in particular seemed to draw the ire of Councilman Knight, and so went off on a 7 minute monologue, I guess we'd call it, to be
Yeah.
polite.
It's the best way to put it.
So, in the monologue, he acknowledged a number of things, but anyway, what he said, I think, was less important than the outrage that's really come out afterward. I've gotten a lot of phone calls. I'm sure you have, and a number
Yeah.
of other people have, and just talking about that the decorum that was present in the meeting wasn't certainly our finest hour. I've had a lot of people point the finger at me saying, "Hey, look, you're the mayor. You should have called that down." And it's so difficult when you're sitting in that chair to know what somebody's going to say, how long they're going to say it, what the point will be, and when is it appropriate to hit the gavel or not.
Mhm.
Because after all, we're talking about a bunch of elected officials. Everybody earned their seat at the table through the
Yeah.
electorate. They represent a group of about 7,500 people in the city, and that's by design. So it just becomes difficult to know where those lines are. I would hope that going forward we would show a little more politeness one to the other.
Yeah.
I'll phrase it that way. And I think that something we can do, something we have done. I mean, I don't know. That must have been a full moon on Monday. I have no idea what really set it off.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was just a back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And I don't know what kind of reactions you've gotten from that, but I figured we might as well talk about it because everybody else has talked about it, and let's just go and get on the record with it.
And definitely, so I received a lot of texts during the meeting. I mean, it
Wow.
didn't even have to wait to after the meeting. The next day, early in the morning was fine, but around noon, the calls started coming in. And what I've simply just been telling people is that, listen, we're elected officials, and I was told that we're always going to be under scrutiny. We're always going to be, under the light, under the eye, and so we should carry ourselves to a higher esteem especially when we're in the chambers, and anytime we're in the public sector. And all of our meetings are business meetings, and so
Right.
the nature of Councilman Knight to have that, and some people call it passion. And he did say he was mad, so. Of course, in that show, he was upset and angry, and that's numerous reasons.
Right.
I think Troy's comments just sort of, pushed and poked at the bear a little bit. But I mean, it's really we shouldn't have to have that, especially directed to constituents.
Right.
Even if it's amongst each other, I think we can sort of handle that a
Oh,
little more
and
than
we do. We have some
yeah,
knockdown dragouts in some of those closed sessions. I
yeah.
mean, it's not as pretty as people think. It gets ugly from time to time,
That's it.
but we always walk out at least smiling, or we have.
That's it. And those, for us to have a conversation with each other is one thing, but to have that conversation in that manner with constituents, in the public, I'm not a fan of it. I don't support it.
Right.
And I think moving forward, I really don't know, what we can do. I would love to see a change, but I mean, it's been going on. So it's
Well, it is a
yeah,
challenge. I mean, and here's one of the bigger challenges. I know we say that don't direct anything personally, but oftentimes that happens, and that's a very difficult thing to judge too when you're sitting there and it's happening in real time, or at least it is for me. And the other thing is, to not to ask councilmen not to ask questions or make comments, um, is hard to do as well. Like for instance, we had somebody come up talking about chickens.
Yeah,
They have some chickens in their backyard. Second time they've been before council. It's something they want to do. You know, having chicken coops in large cities is something that's done all the time. I mean, I know Richmond has an ordinance. I know friends of mine in Buckhead and Atlanta have
yeah.
chickens in their backyard.
Wow.
You know, so it's really not an uncommon practice. So the question is, do we need to revise or consider revising our ordinance? Is the first issue, and second of all, as it relates to this particular individual, you know, what do we share with staff? Because the ordinance is no, you can't have them.
Hmm.
So, you know, the staff are doing what they were instructed to do, what their job is to do, what the ordinance says to do. However, is it time to reconsider what that ordinance would be and perhaps make a stay on this particular matter? Well, so in that question, you know, it was more than appropriate. I believe Councilman Blackwell asked a few questions. You know, okay, well, tell me about that. What does that mean? What is, you know, clarifying questions to get a better understanding of
Exactly.
what the individual is trying to communicate. And I've seen that happen a number of times. I mean,
Yeah.
with speed bumps, with traffic, with you just don't know what somebody's trying to communicate. And 3 minutes is a lot of time,
Hmm.
but it's not enough time to flesh out every single thought. And sometimes there's a need for clarification. So where's the line on that? You know, how
Yeah.
do you determine how to make that happen, and or where to referee that, or you know, it's an imperfect world, and we're imperfect people.
Yeah. But and you know, I think as elected officials, we all have the wherewithal to understand those responses that we need to make.
Right.
There are certain times that we hear from constituents at the podium, and we know when we need clarity, or we know when we need to, especially and primarily a lot of time when it's pertaining to your individual ward. Most of the time, that said representative for whatever ward is speaking at the moment
Right.
would make sure that there was some type of feedback given if need be.
Right.
But then a lot of times it's there's no need to really give the feedback in the sector because you don't want to prolong the meeting, you don't want to extend it, and sometimes I've even heard, we've given feedback saying, "Hey, listen, contact me."
Right.
After the meeting, or hand your files over or your paperwork over,
Yeah.
and there's been a way that we've handled it before, and I think it works. But when we get into going back and forth into argument with, you just don't want to open that door with the
It, it,
public.
no, you really don't. But anyway, so yes, so it's hard to say absolute rules for anything, particularly when it comes to those clarifying questions. But I do appreciate those who come up and say, "Hey, I've got this handout. This is my introduction to it. I'm going to ask this individual to distribute to all of you, look at it, and then you have a basis to be able to where does it need to go? Does it need
Yeah,
to go to the city manager? Is it something the council person can do? Is it something the mayor can do? A lot of times, just asking. Sometimes just receiving information. So
that's it.
it's just different, right? So beyond that, you know, what were the other things that were impressive to you or impressed upon you in the meeting?
Well, I mean, to get the feedback from, the judicial center, from the public, from the few that came, was good. You always want 100% support on any item that helps move the city forward. But when you hear opposition and you hear the stance and the perspectives, it helps just to hear it, just to know the community in which we live in. I'm looking forward to more people coming out to support it, that are in support of Judicial Center. I think it's going to be great for our downtown development, economic impact that it'll have on our Monday to Friday crowd, and more
Right.
businesses that I believe it will draw to downtown, knowing that there will be a consistent customer account, and just a walking foot traffic on a daily basis. So I'm excited about it, and I pray our legislators do us right, and and,
Well,
and make sure that they allocate the fund that we're requesting.
well, I believe all those things that you just said, and just to be clear, because I don't know that everybody understands what we're trying to do. We are merely asking the General Assembly to provide us with $15 million toward the construction of a new courthouse downtown.
Mhm.
That's really what this is about. Now, the projected cost is $35 million. We don't have those numbers refined at this particular time, and nor will we until we know that we have some hope of funding from the state because we need that money to even consider the project.
That's it.
So this is merely an ask. It's not a commitment of anything at this particular point in time. I do believe that our two members of the House, both Shelley Willingham representing Edgecombe County and Alan Cheshire of Nash County, have put in the request for that $15 million. I know that Speaker Moore heard us and was somewhat encouraging in our
Mhm.
conversations. But what happens is the money, and that's already been passed. The budget's already been passed in the House.
Yeah.
So now the Senate's going to have to come back with their version of the budget, and then the differences will have to be ironed out in conference and committee. And we don't know who's going to be in the conference and committee. We don't
Yeah.
know if our project bubbles to the top, if it's successful in both the House budget and the Senate budget. There's a lot of unknown questions, and people are talking in such certainties that I just want folks to be leery or to understand that there is nothing certain here.
Yeah.
It is merely an ask of our General Assembly
That's it.
on that particular matter. So I hope that clears up at least some of the understanding that folks out there may have or may not have
Yeah,
in terms of really what we're doing.
and then I mean, and I have high hopes that they'll fund it, and it will draw the attention of our federal legislators, and
Right? Absolutely,
and
absolutely.
and may allow them to chip in even more, on the investment, and our investment as a city may be little to none when it's all said and done. But as you stated, you don't know unless you ask,
That's right.
and the opportunity is there to ask. Why not ask?
100% of the time. a
Why
hundred
not ask?
percent of the time. And so, I'm hopeful that occurs as well. And so we will see, where this all shakes out. And so we're keeping our fingers crossed. And the significance of this at this particular point in time, because I know it looks like it's kind of rushed, is that this is the long session of the General Assembly. So they set the 2-year budget, and
Mhm.
this will all be hammered out over the next 30 days. And so if it's gonna happen, it's got to happen today.
Yeah,
And perhaps I could have managed that process a little bit differently, and maybe should have in hindsight. Regardless, I know that we needed to make the ask. We did make the ask. Probably should have been a little more clear and disseminating information to the public. But here again, the assumption that I made, maybe the mistake I made was, well, does anybody really care about how we make the sausage and that we're just simply asking for money?
yeah,
And I think folks read something completely different into that whole action. So I hope that is clears up the air for a lot of folks.
yeah.
And by the way, we're out there asking for other monies too.
That's it.
We're asking for monies to help complete the pedestrian bridge. We did get some federal aid on that particular project, but we're short on that to be able to make that happen.
Yeah,
There we have a need for obviously the courthouse. We have a need for some infrastructure roads, some sewer work. We're applying for grants on a consistent, constant basis.
yeah,
Micro transit. The list is pretty comprehensive. In fact, you and I probably ought to go through, make that a show one day.
yeah.
Sort of on an off week. I think folks would probably be interested in hearing, the kinds of things that we do ask those in higher office for as it relates to us and how we function.
That's it. And knowing that we're asking. I mean,
Well,
I found out today, and I was so surprised that and just in thoughts that the county didn't ask. We're talking about the demerger in schools and how can we get the funding and how would it be funded. And I found out they didn't ask for funding, and so
wow.
I'm saying, here's an opportunity, to ask. Here's an opportunity to utilize your legislation, those that represent you. And that's the reason, part of a lot of the reason they represent us to have a seat at the table to
Right,
get us what we need. And so
right.
I know Edgecombe County is going to need funding for what they're going to have to do in this demerger process. And, it would have been a great opportunity for them to at least ask,
Sure.
even if it doesn't happen now, you ask, you keep it on the table, you keep it on the docket, you keep it in front of your representatives. Then eventually it has to happen.
Well, there's nothing wrong with ever asking.
Yeah,
What's a more noble cause in this case than the school system? The education of our youth. I mean, I can't think of a better investment.
that's it. Yeah,
Now, how we do it, I guess some people want to fight over that, but the point remains that education should be a high priority for every community all the time.
yeah, yeah. If I would have known when we went, I would have
Well, I would have
asked.
too. I would have had no
Yeah,
problem with that,
yeah.
actually, none whatsoever.
Definitely. Just found out yesterday, so
Yeah. Anyway, and that budget's already set now
it's
for the
already
House, so
done.
it's done.
It's
So,
done.
what else was impressed you from the meeting?
The meeting in itself was impressive for having my Rocky Mount Senior High girls
Yeah,
come and
golly, I
state
can't believe
champion
I've had good
runner-ups.
funds, right?
That was exciting. I was at the game. Superintendent Ellis was there as well,
Okay.
as well as just everyone from Rocky Mount that has been supporting the Lady Griffons. This was Coach Gainey's first year actually attending the state championship as a team, and so
Is that right?
yeah, that was her first state championship game.
I would not.
And we fell short, but They fought a good fight, and it was good to be able to recognize them.
Well, it happened to fall on my birthday weekend, and so it would have been a nice little birthday gift for me if we had
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
managed to get through it. But as a result of that, I was not in attendance at the game, but really wanted to go. It's always great to see your old high school, succeed. And look, we've had some great area sports. We were able to celebrate Northern.
Yeah.
But, on that other matter, we were able to celebrate and commemorate Pastor Jordan and Pastor Hendricks, who were police chaplains who both
Yeah.
passed away this year. And both just tremendous, tremendous men in so many ways, and both in their faith, in terms of the services they provided to our officers, to victims, to those involved in crime. I mean, really doing what I believe is the Lord's work, and just unfortunate that they passed away. I mean, a real loss to our community. I
Yeah.
loved the fact that so many members of the police force were present even after hours to show their support for the family. And I love seeing both families there. It was an emotional time for everybody, as you can expect. But
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
but I thought that was a nice touch, and thought the chief did a good job. I gave him a little bit of the floor after making some comments. I thought he did a really nice job of bringing it home.
Yeah, we've got one of the best chiefs in the nation. I mean, just professional class, second to none. And I'm grateful that we had the opportunity to commemorate both of our fallen chaplains and for the work that they've done and for the work that Pastor Jordan created here, starting the chaplaincy within our police department, and him and Pastor Andrew just working close together to make it all happen. And it's great. We've still got great community here, people coming together, like you said. We've got a great community in Rocky Mount, and it was great to see it.
Right. It really was. It really is great to see. I don't think I realized that Pastor Jordan, Chris Jordan, actually created that chaplaincy department.
Yep.
That's remarkable.
That's right.
I knew him from a non-denominational church in my 20s and had a chance to worship with him on a consistent, regular basis, and just found him to be just an outstanding individual in every regard.
That's right.
And it felt like his untimely demise is something that is a loss for us, but
Yep.
certainly he's an asset to heaven.
That's it. That's it. A much better place. Along those lines of community, May 5th, I'll have a young professionals rooftop social
Okay.
on top of the Davis Lofts. We actually had our first sort of social networking at Gold Island last night, and it was great, man. People just didn't even realize how many young professionals we have moving back to the city, that want to be involved, that want to be connected. And so it was a great time to see it. And we're looking forward to have more opportunities like that where people can really see, hey, listen, there's a place for me in the city, a place for me to put my hand to the plow.
Right. So, with that said, do you have a website or anything people can check a calendar going forward? I know you have it next week or next month, but
Yeah, right now, well, we're going to create it because
okay.
we're just going to create a whole organization around it. Young Professionals Rocky Mount. So we'll have more information coming soon, and we'll have a website and Facebook page, social media platform, and
And you'll be using Streak, I believe, as an application.
Streak will be, yep, Streak's gonna be, shout out to Chuck Robinson
That's
with
right.
Streak app and him and his partners, and, that's gonna be great to use. That's gonna be our communication
Right.
for all of our sites, so, I'm excited about it, man. And we'll probably come here to sort of do podcasts,
Right. Well,
here,
well,
so
why not? We got a great facility. So you
that's
should
it.
be using that. So that really kind of takes us, I guess, to the committee of the whole that we started before the meeting. Probably should cover that first, but that's typically your meeting, and I thought it was interesting. It was much quicker than they typically are.
Yeah.
So I'm getting to try not know how to budget my time anymore, but I'm loving it. Don't hear otherwise.
That's good, man. It worked out well. We tried to move out of the way for the Lady Griffons to come in and
That's
have their
right.
photos, but the Live Well Nutrition was really the bulk of that meeting, and Keena, which is our HR director, she spoke about some of that program and how it is just a nutritional wholeness and wellness program for all of our staff. And so seemed to be excited. They had some great initiatives that they've set forth, and it looked like a great, robust program.
Well, we have, what is it, about 800 full-time equivalent
Mhm.
employees in the city, maybe slightly more than that. But it was interesting to me to hear some of those activities, like, our basketball league,
Yeah,
and that we had, 100 or several hundred people participate in these various activities. And that's
yeah,
great. And so I believe she didn't criticize, but chided everybody on council that she hadn't seen any of us in any of those activities. and I realized I had not gotten any, but that just gives me one excuse for now. I have all
That's
confidence
it.
it'll start showing up in my inbox now. Not that I
Oh, we'll have
necessarily,
it. We'll have it. Look for it by next month.
yeah. So I'll have to come up with a different excuse after that.
That's it. That's it.
Yeah, and of course, then we talked to the chief. He went over crime statistics a little bit. We looked at them, and it's sort of the same. One of the things I think is exciting to know is that we've engaged in a pace study, or engaging in a pace study, particularly for the police as well as other departments, and trying to really figure out, well, how do we fill the holes, the gaps in our police department? And so there's a real initiative around that with our new city manager Keith Rogers, with
Yeah.
our chief. And so, I just want folks to hear that there really is a lot of work that's going into trying to make sure that we have a premier force that is, in fact, fully staffed, or as fully staffed as anyone ever gets. And that there are some, real transformational changes, I believe, that are occurring in the not so distant future.
Oh yeah, it's our police department is second to none. We actually today I was talking to another council member in Fayetteville, North Durham, have some of the technology that we have, such as our spot
Right.
shotters. I think Fayetteville or Durham, one of them just got them. Spot shotters,
Well,
the
Fayetteville's
fusion
had it for a while.
system.
I know that.
I think Fayetteville had it, so it
Yeah.
must have been Durham.
Yeah.
Doesn't have the shot spotters. The fusion system is new to both of those areas, and so knowing that we are ahead of the curve, it just shows just how great of a department we have.
Well, absolutely, and of course, relying on technology, and that's something that we're going to need to begin to do on a consistent basis.
Yeah.
It was also interesting that this past week, Nettie, uh, is it Nettie Ty,
Oh yeah, yeah, I saw that.
was convicted. He was the head of a Bloods gang here, I believe, in the area. But the U.S. Marshal had come to a meeting that I had asked him to, along with the police chief and others, to talk about violent crime and how we make reduction of it. So he took that opportunity on the conviction to really speak to Rocky Mount specifically, and
Mhm.
some of the initiatives that are going forward, and how he and his office are willing to help us as we continue down this path, this journey. So again, reaffirming good things are happening.
Yeah,
It gets caught in the weeds a lot of times, and I hate that, but that's just the way it works sometimes.
that's it. And then we look forward to our retreat coming up in May. I don't think we'll have another mayor's brief before then.
I don't know. I don't
Yeah,
think we will
no,
either. So
this first week of May is a retreat,
that's
so
right.
it'll be
And
right before our
and that
mayor's
brings
brief.
it up. I need to give a plug. I am having a prayer breakfast on
Okay.
May 4th. It's during the retreat, but I'm going to coming back here to engage in that. Then I'll go back and join the retreat. But I'd like for folks to listen. This is a mayor's prayer breakfast only because I'm the mayor.
Yeah.
City funds are not paying for this. It will be here at 130 South Franklin Street. And I believe the starting time is going to be 8 a.m. And I'd love to encourage everybody to come and pray for our city, because it's something that I believe is very, very, very important for us to do.
Yeah.
And I believe that that really is the answer for so many of our woes, is, spiritually, to really begin to seek within and try to figure out how we are going to approach, some of these challenges that we have. I mean,
That's
we're
it.
not smart enough by ourselves to do it on our own,
Nah.
or it would have already been done.
Oh yeah. Yep.
So
Done or destructed.
that's right. That's right. That's right. So anyway, that's all I have on my list. I don't know if you have anything else you want to talk about.
It's been great. Just continuing to keep leading. I appreciate you for being our mayor and all that you do, and just looking forward to continuing out this year.
Thank you so much. God
Sure.
bless you, man.
Thank you. Likewise.